Thanks for tuning in to High on Horror. I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to all the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
Writer-director Brandon Christensen is joining us today to discuss his latest feature, The Puppetman. We highly suggest that you check it out. Brandon was on our show when we reviewed his last film, Superhost, which was awesome.
Both films are actually available to stream on Shudder, so, after this, go watch Superhost if you haven't and listen to our episode.
And we're glad to have Brandon back and can't wait to talk with him about his new film. Plus, John and I are answering questions that you listeners wrote in for Puff Puff Ask.
And we got this week's horror history.
All that and more today on
High on Horror.
Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. Choo choo, you know the drill. We're starting off with Trainwreck so that we can shake this day's stress and worries off of ourselves and talk about horror movies.
Yeah, and you brought up, Trainwreck, and that train sound. We got some Mango Trainwreck.
Oh.
Nothing in Leafly about this. It's from Curio Wellness, and from their website, it says Mango Trainwreck is a hybrid strain created by crossing Mango Kush with Trainwreck. Dominant terpenes of mycerin and carofene.
Don't ask me.
I'm so bad at this. It is often recommended for managing anxiety, inducing relaxation, and addressing sleep issues. Packaging may vary by state. Maryland packaging shown.
No, this sounds pretty good. Actually, I've never had this before. This is the first time.
I didn't even check the THC on it.
Yeah, let us know that. I was going to say real quick, though, that typically we will have already smoked it and then record an episode while we're smoking more of it and discussing what it is. So but we didn't this time, so we're not already high off and on it, so we don't know how this tastes yet or how. Well, I haven't. Did you smoke it yet?
Yeah, I have.
Oh well, okay, never mind. Well, I haven't tried it yet, so
it's funny because it said mycerin was like one of the top ones. Mm. I'm looking at the packaging and it's actually limonene. That's the top one. So
okay.
Update your website, maybe. It's 28.97% THC. And,
Damn, what was that number?
28.97.
Whoa, all right. So it is a strain wreck for sure. Hell yeah.
And, got a giant ball.
Train wreck.
Like a Viking weapon.
It does. It looks like the Return of the Living Dead 2 cover. Dude, you need to post this on our IG.
I should. And
post the comparison. I'm telling you, that's the first thing I saw was the smoke cloud zombie. But
smoke cloud zombie.
On the cover, while you light that up and pass it, I wanted to bring up to you that something that I figure I needed to talk to you about. I rewatched Talk to Me a few nights ago with my wife Sam, and I came to a realization. I think you said something about this during our review episode, which is pretty funny, but I slept through so much more of that movie than I thought. I remember in our review, you said something like, you dozed off a few times, or I caught you with your eyes closed a few times, or something like that. Well, when I rewatched it, I realized that I had apparently missed a lot, and I was watching it, and I'm thinking when we saw it in theaters, I was exhausted. And we saw it at an 11 p.m. showing.
Yeah, it was pretty late.
And I was high as balls. I was gone. I dozed off. And you called me on it. But after rewatching this movie with a fresh palate, I honestly take back what I said about the movie. I think I gave it a 7. And I'm going to use my own advice with this one from now on. If I'm ever that tired again, I'm not going to just review a movie because I don't trust myself at this point. When I did that, I'm taking it back. I'm going to give Talk to Me like an 8.75 or a 9. I fucking loved it. I get the hype now. I get it. I didn't. The part where she kills her dad, I literally remember she just seeing her dad getting killed. I don't remember the build up to it and things like that. And when I'm rewatching, I'm going, no, this movie was fucking good. I said it was average. I was wrong. I should have rewatched it before I properly reviewed it. That's my bad. I'm buying that shit on 4K.
I smoked too much weed to even remember what I gave it. I mean, I haven't seen it since we saw it in theaters, but I remember the
whole thing though. Well, not remember, but you didn't sleep through it, so you took the whole thing in.
You took the whole thing in. That's what she said. But I don't. Do you remember if I reviewed it favorably? I think I did.
I think we gave it like the same review. I think I gave it like a 7.5, and you might have did like a 7.8 or something. But
I mean, it's been one of the better movies of the last couple of years for sure.
Yeah, and even knowing how I was fully aware.
If I shit on it then, I guess my bad, because I'm thinking of like some of the better movies the last couple of years, and it's up there.
I would agree. I remember the end completely coherently. Like I was awake for that part, and when I even rewatching it and knowing that that's what was coming, I won't spoil that part in case there's anybody out there who hasn't watched it. I won't ruin the ending, but I knew what was coming because I had already seen that part and I didn't sleep through it. And yet when it happened, I still thought, damn, that was a cool fucking ending. Even knowing that was coming. And my wife, who had never seen it before, this was her first time watching it. And she, at the same time I said it, we both said, that was a cool fucking ending. It was, we were in sync and said it and we both cracked up. So yeah, it was a good fucking time. And I regret giving it an average review.
So, apologies to Talk to Me from Drew.
Pause. Never mind. That's my lines. Never mind.
I was going to say, I don't know why, but it made me think of movies that were reviewed favorably and then have gone the opposite way. I haven't rewatched it, but one I keep seeing that people seem to have loved when it came out and don't seem to like it now is Black Phone.
Really?
I keep seeing a lot of people in horror groups saying like, "Oh, I watched Black Phone and wasn't that good."
Because I've seen it with Knock at the Cabin, which I think is just insane.
Yeah, Yeah, that's another one. Both of those I thought were good.
But you know what's still fucking hilarious, bro? People every day in horror groups on social media are shitting on Halloween Ends.
I knew you were going to go to Halloween Ends somehow.
It's true. We were just talking about to somebody, or you got a sticker from it.
Yeah, who the hell did I order from again?
Fright Rags, right?
I always forget who I order from. But yeah, because I mean they had those kick-ass Halloween cup.
Yes, that you blessed me with. Thank you.
You're welcome. And yeah, because I got the Goosebumps Halloween 4 shirt, and they threw a sticker in there. I was like, "Ooh, Michael," and it says "Ends" behind it. And I just, but it was nice because when they sent the cups, they sent those separate. I think, or no, I think the shirt was sent separate, and that had the Thing sticker. So
okay,
I'll take it balancing out on that. But yeah, Halloween Ends still got awful.
It still gets shit on today, and that's what's crazy is that the hate hasn't died. It's like people are still discovering it and
we're still hating it.
People are we'll pass. People remember the whole everybody hates it right now, but it'll grow and as it gets older, people will learn to love it. Like Halloween 3, it's like it's over a year after the movies come out now, and people are still posting about it every day. New people who have just seen it and they're shitting on it, and people are agreeing it's not getting better with age. It's not a fine wine.
People out there are going to be like, they just found another way just to shit on Halloween Ends.
I didn't even mean for it. It just happens.
It just happens. But yeah, like I'm already going to tell you the Halloween TV series, that's got to be better than Halloween Ends.
It has to be. But all right, Johnny boy, it's time to take a look at the past and go over this week's horror history. But this time, I promised I'm not going to interject because you have a lot of stuff you have to say, and I always get caught up and want to geek out and talk about these movies, and then I drag this next segment out, so I'm just going to let you roll through it. It's like I picture this as like your weatherman segment, you know, like the you just like this is all you know, and there's a lot to cover, so let's get to it.
What was I going to say? Fuck, I had it, and then you hit me with the weatherman. I was going to say, it's like at the Oscars, the in memorial, where they just show the pictures and just be reading off the list.
Yeah, exactly.
This week in horror history.
All right, get it started here on, yesterday, January 28th. Births, we got 1959, Frank Darabont. 1986, year I was born, Alexis, Texas. I know you didn't have anything to say, Drew, but I mean, I don't know if you want to speak on Alexis Texas.
No, I'll pass.
I don't know if you're familiar with her body of work.
I am. Our listeners, I'm sure, are too. And
Appeared in a erotic tale of Miss Dracula, Bloodlust Zombies, and Bikini Frankenstein.
Absolutely.
Films, Hide and Seek, 2005. One that I liked that you did not, 2011, The Right.
Yeah.
Today, January 29th, for births, we got Heather Graham, 1970. And films, 1988, Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bolorama. January 30th, for births, we got Gene Hackman, Christian Bale. Gene Hackman, 1930, Christian Bale, 1974. I realized I just said their names and just kept moving. For films, 1991, Oscar winner for Best Picture, Silence of the Lambs. 2003, Final Destination 2. And moving on to our next month here, February 1st, for births, 1955, William Lustig. Films, 1977, Suspiria. I want to jump in real quick here. Mm-hmm. I saw somebody the other day online in a horror group said that Demons was a better intro to Italian horror than Suspiria.
You know, I can kind of agree. I guess it would depend on the type of horror the person's into, but Suspiria is more scary and like edge of your seat, whereas Demons is kind of like fun and like gory and has like 80s metal. So I guess it depends on like what type of vibe you're going for. I tend to go right for the throat because I like to know what you can take. You know me. You know I introduced you to all the fucked up stuff, or most of it. But that's me. Like if I'm taking somebody on a date, if I'm taking somebody on a date for the first time and I have the option of Demons and Suspiria, I'm going with Suspiria because you know why? Because it sounds kind of predatory to say, but I was going to say,
this is me.
Don't cling up. The girl will like cling up on you. It's a good date movie because they're scary, but I say that out loud. It sounds kind of predatory, like, oh, I'm going to go to touch me, but, I would say, I can understand why someone would say that. I don't necessarily disagree.
Moving on here, February 2nd, births, 1936, Dwayne Jones, 1949, Brett Spiner. And for deaths, 1969, Boris Karloff. In 1995, Donald Pleasance. Fucking Groundhog Day took some big ones, huh?
Yeah.
And films, 2001, underrated classic, I think. Nicole got me to watch it, and she has to hold it over my head that, I got you to watch this, was Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
February 3rd, for births, we have 1961, Keith Gordon. Deaths, 1989, John Cassavetes. And films, we had some good ones here. In the Mouth of Madness, 1995. 2006, When a Stranger Calls. I like the remake.
Yeah.
2011, The Innkeepers debuted in Toronto.
That's a good one, too.
And another film we mentioned, 2023, Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, nice.
So, that'll about wrap up Horror Hiss.
All right, so then now I guess it's time to get into Puff Puff Ask, the segment of our show where we read off messages that you listeners write into us on social media at HighOnHorror420 and through email at HighOnHorror420@gmail.com and, of course, our official website, HighOnHorror.com.
Yo, man, Puff Puff Pass.
All right, I'll go first. This email comes from a guy who goes by Jack Torrance, by the way. That's what he asked us to refer him as, Jack Torrance, for whatever reason, so we'll respect that. He asks, what do you think of Universal Studios and David Gordon Green parting ways and canceling the Exorcist Believer sequel? My response to that is good. And our review for Believer will be out in a few weeks, FYI. But yeah, that's my response, good. I wasn't looking forward to it. I could give two shits less.
2 shits less? Oh, that's what you're saying. I don't think I've heard that. I could give 2 shits less about that. Like, what is the standard amount of shits to give?
I'm inventing shit tonight. It's this mango strain wreck.
Do you start with 2 shits? Is it like a 5 shit system? So if you take 2 away, you just down to giving 3 shits about it?
You're still going. It got me because you just wasn't expecting you to keep going.
I don't have faith in David Gordon Green to do anything outside of comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe if you look at Halloween Ends as a comedy. or like a parody. Maybe I'm about to go back and watch it as a parody.
No, it's still bad.
No, it's still bad. Yeah, I don't have faith in David Gordon Green for much. So, yeah, and we'll have our review out. We've been so goddamn sick lately.
It's bad. It's been bad.
Or hopefully we're back on track now here. But, all right, I'll move on to this one. It was actually sent in from my friend Courtney. Hey guys, loving the podcast and learning a bit as well. Maybe you covered it and I flaked, but what's your take on the elementary school teacher who played Pooh, Blood and Honey for her class? I get it, but it has I get it. It has Winnie in it, but come on, wouldn't the rest of the title drop a hint? I mean, you would think so, especially the blood part. I also want to know, like, I wonder how old these elementary kids were, like, what grade it was, because, like, I gotta say,
that's what I would like to know too. Exactly how young were these kids?
Because you remember, I mean, granted it was high school.
Mm-hmm.
They showed us some very much inappropriate movies at William Penn.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised at William Penn?
I mean, I don't know about you, I watched Pulp Fiction as an anti-drug movie.
That's hilarious. That's awesome, but ridiculous at the same time.
So, somebody else, one of my friends, their teacher played Scarface for him.
I heard about that. That wasn't my class, unfortunately.
I looked it up here. It was a 4th grade math class in Miami.
Oh, 4th grade?
And it was a math class, so I don't know what.
So why were they watching a Winnie the Pooh movie at all?
I mean, I guess you could tally up the kills.
Is there a Winnie the Pooh movie called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Money? And they meant to play that one? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Hustle and Flow. Yeah, I can't imagine things went well for that teacher.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I guess my take would be you probably shouldn't do it.
Well, see, my thing is, when I actually watched the movie because it's on Peacock. And I put it on. I watched it over the course of like a night and a half. It was just before bed, in between work days, and it's pretty bad, but it is actually enjoyable on like a fun level. But my thing is, after reading this question, the movie kind of starts immediately. So I'm like, how far did the teacher just put it on and walk away and go sit at his desk or her desk, and then like let the movie play for however, I don't know how long it played for, because I can imagine the kids were probably fucked up through the opening scene. So I wonder if it was an immediate like, oh shit, this has been on for 5 minutes and they're fucking screaming, or if it took like 20-30 minutes in for the kids to see some more shit.
This is from ScreenRant.com. I pulled up an article on it.
All right.
A 4th grade math class was shown multiple minutes, so apparently it was just minutes.
Oh, so opening, like I said, the opening, yeah.
Footage of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey prompted parents and school responses. The school has taken action to address the incident, including meeting with impacted students and ensuring their well-being. Yeah, apparently it was just... wow. The headline buried this.
Okay.
Apparently the film played, according to parent Michelle Diaz, the film played for between 20 and 30 minutes, while the teacher
20 to 30? Like I said, I told you, dude.
With the teacher not stopping the film because students had chosen it.
So they decided,
I mean, it was a vote of the people.
They decided they could take it, so sure, why not?
Apparently, the movie has reportedly caused Diaz's children to become distressed.
Oh, jeez.
It's not. She said he didn't stop the movie, even though the kids were saying, "Hey, stop the movie. We don't want this." It's not for them to decide what they want to do. It's up for the professor to look at the content. Kids, you said you wanted this. Too damn bad. You're going to continue to watch it.
Yeah, right.
You're going to learn life is about making choices. Wow, 20 to 30 minutes.
So, like I said, put it on in the background and just. Well, they said they could take it. No,
they probably put it on. Teacher probably turned it on. It was playing on their phone or something.
Yeah, or grading papers or bullshitting. But yeah,
playing Xbox Game Pass.
That's what you'd be doing.
That's what I'd be doing.
All right, well,
here, kids, watch this movie. I'm gonna go chill in the back.
If any of you
turn the lights off, it's too bright in here.
Oh, dark too. If any of you listeners out there have any questions for us, reach out to us on social media at High on Horror 420, or email us at highonhorror420 at gmail.com. Or visit our website at highonhorror420.com.
No, it's just highonhorror.com.
What the? I'm
Just said
high.
High
Oh
on
my
Horror
god.
420.
Oh my
You were
god.
on a roll with the High on Horror 420.
Our website, highonhorror.com. Visit it for reviews, all
that
the other
shit.
good shit that you don't get here. And without further ado, let's get into our review of The Puppetman.
The Puppetman is a convicted killer on death row. He's always maintained his innocence, saying it was an evil force controlling his body as he slaughtered his victims. Now Michael, the killer's daughter, begins to suspect there may be some truth to her father's claim when those around her begin to die in brutal ways. All hope rests on her shoulders to break the Puppet Man's curse. So that is our film today, The Puppet Man. We'll be talking to Brandon Christensen here in a little bit. But what were your thoughts on the film?
Yeah, I'm going to keep this short and sweet because, there's a lot of spoilers coming in the interview. This movie picks up with a jolt of horror. Right away, it grabs you right out of the gate by the throat. It's well paced. It's not scary, but it's definitely eerie. It creeps under your skin a little bit. Michael's sleepwalking adds an element of dread to this whole scenario. The deaths are on point. The movie goes full Final Destination with a barrage of deaths.
Yes.
Steering wheel foo, as Joe Bob Briggs would say. I'll leave it at that. The acting was good. Everyone was believable for the most part, and good natural dialogue. I noticed that the dialogue was really well written and spoken. It just seemed like they were just totally, the chemistry was there. Their talking seemed totally natural. Alison Gorsk carries the movie with ease. I've never seen anything else she's been in before, but she killed it. I just fucking nailed it. Held the movie just fine. I wanted to see what was happening with her every next scene that came on. She definitely pulled me in. It's definitely someone to look out for. And this movie rings home the old saying, you can't run from who you are and where you come from. I give this movie a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, speaking of the actors, all the kids, they feel natural as college kids. And Final Destination, there's a couple scenes that just linger, and it makes me feel more and more uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
There's one kill that absolutely I just still grimacing thinking about it.
We're gonna go in depth about that one.
Everything, it's very tightly wound for sure. I don't really know what else to say about. I feel like you kind of nailed it there. I'd give it an 8.2 out of 10.
Okay, straight pause. Okay, cool. So two 8s basically. That's pause. Okay, awesome. So yeah, we both loved it, and as we said earlier, it's available to stream on Shudder, as is Superhost, plus Z. You just gotta have to look up our guest here, Brandon. He's done a lot of good horror movies, and why waste any more time?
Facts. Let's get in that interview.
Brandon Christensen, thank you for being on High on Horror again, man. It's great to have you.
Thanks, guys. It's great to be back.
So how's life going, man? What's new since the last time we talked?
Oh, man. We talked after Superhost, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. The pandemic's over, so that's pretty cool. I don't know. I've got a new movie that just came out in October, on October 13th, called The Puppetman, which I think is the reason for this call. But that took a lot of time. We shot that in early part of 2022, and post-production on it was insane. So it was just like a never-ending sort of battle to get that film finished. And now I'm in post on another one.
Oh, sweet. All right. Yeah, we'll get into your future project a little later. Right now, I want to talk to you about the Puppet Man, as you said. My first question here is that, we followed all your work, and that's why we've had you on and asked you on again. We really like your work. We're enthusiasts of your efforts in the film world. And with this, the Puppet Man, and Z and Stillborn, these are all supernatural horror films. What draws you or attracts you to supernatural horror films?
That's a good one. That's a tough question. I think a big part of it is just sort of taking situations that aren't really that interesting on their own. Just like a mother and her child, and just sort of dealing with this, the sense of loss, and a mother and her child again in Z, who's losing her grip on being a friend with her kid, and just sort of applying this extra pressure from a supernatural entity that kind of blends into the situation that we're showing. I think it just allows a lot of opportunities for the story to take a lot of interesting turns, because ultimately you want to make a movie with compelling characters that you care about, and you want to have drama that's relatable, and situations that you can be apathetic toward, or not apathetic, empathetic towards. And so when you take that and you just add that extra layer that kind of just takes it beyond the normal, I think it causes a lot of interesting things to happen, because you have these characters who they might deal with something like going to a doctor or whatever in one way, but when you apply this extra layer, it just sort of causes these other layers to unfold, like, and sort of you find some really interesting opportunities. So I just think it's just a way to sort of push the story a little bit further, and allows an opportunity for a lot of scary things.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because supernatural. Well, I'm a slasher fan. Slashers are, good old American slashers. That's my favorite subgenre. But the films that scare me the most, that have always, I'm not really scared of any slasher movie. The movies that scare me the most are supernatural horror films, like The Exorcist or The Entity, or like the first two Conjuring movies, like things where I think the reason is because it's like fear of the unknown. You're fucking with things that nobody's really sure about, and nobody knows how they would combat it if it really were to happen to them. So I think that supernatural horror draws that. That's what makes it so appealing, and that's why I was asking why you make them, because it seems like you always seem to have this new idea of something that is just some unknown, that's some big bad that's coming to fuck with you, that you just don't know how you're gonna prepare for it.
Right. Yeah. Superhost was the only one that I've done that wasn't supernatural, and you get into a lot of things like it's 2 versus 1 in that film. You've got Osric and Sarah against Gracie, and it's like you read some of the comments, and they're it's like, oh, it's 2 against 1 against this little girl. They should be able to take her out, and it's like, yeah, maybe, but at the same time, if you've got someone that has done it before, there's a lot of power in someone that's killed before, between some spoiled brat influencers that have never really dealt with anything beyond just like lost views or something like that. So to me it makes sense, and I feel like you give someone a knife and they can be incredibly dangerous, but I don't know if that hits as much. So there is like a lot more unpredictability when you're dealing with the supernatural, that I think allows the audience to be more on board for what's happening, because there is, it's almost like the uncanny valley thing. It's like, if it's a real situation, you can apply real logic to it, but when logic kind of goes out the window because you've got this new rule set that doesn't apply to real life, I think there's a little bit of wiggle room there.
Absolutely. And how did Alison Gorski, is it Gorsk? I don't know if I'm butchering that or not. How did she get involved in the Puppet Man? Because she is brilliant. She's vulnerable, but then she'll turn it on you quick and be fucking super aggressive.
Yeah, so that was total, kind of lucky, is because we started casting that at the end of 2021. And Shudder kind of had first approval on the lead of the film, and so the producers went out to these different people, and they got some auditions coming through, and Allison was one of the first or second people that came in, and there was sort of like a ticking time clock that we had to get this approval to Shudder, like we had to get through that so they would agree to financing, and there's all these sort of steps you have to do. But her audition was just so good. Like I can't. There was a couple scenes. One of them was when she's after Charlie dies. She's sitting across the table from the officer, and they're talking like that. And she had this vulnerability that was just super engaging. And so it I looked at her other stuff, and you sort of see some things that you like, but yeah, we just sort of made the offer and got it done, and she was great because just working with her from day one, and before that, like we'd have calls and just talk through scenes and talk through the character motivations and things like that. Yeah, she was one of my favorite people to work with just because she was so engaged throughout the entire process.
That's awesome, and it's good that you were able to work with Shudder on that, and it was pretty easy for you. I had a totally random question on Charlie's computer. I think it's between the 10 and 11 minute mark. She's talking to Michael, and it just looks like there is a long, giant report on her computer. Like, what was that on the computer? Because that looked very thorough.
So I mean, I guess she's just writing some bullshit essay, but like the practical reason is that was a prop MacBook Air that they had, and the screen was kind of broken, so we couldn't shoot close-ups of it on it or anything. And like this film is loaded with visual effects. There's like 317 shots, and you wouldn't know that most of them are VFX because they're kind of invisible. And there's a lot of screens in the film that are all either shot practically after the fact or they're added in post. And that was one where I just essentially I needed the white light on it just to have some interactive lighting. And so we put this white screen up, and it was like a full screen Google Doc or something like that, and just put a bunch of that like lorem ipsum Latin kind of BS filler type. And I was like, we're never going to see what she's writing. It's always going to be out of focus. And, I was like, I'll look at it later and maybe I can replace it with another screen. But, you get deep into the editing, get into the VFX, and you have to prioritize things. And it was just one of those things that literally this is the first time I've ever had to talk about it. So, but it is funny because I am very aware of that screen. So it's like, but it's just all babble. And I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's just schoolwork. You're thinking too much. Stop thinking.
No. I was asking on the practical part, what was actually on there, but that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was just dummy text.
And also with Charlie, her whole area, that thing, like, how long did it take to like design her board and everything? Because there's like photos, there's like these little notes with stuff. That seems like that was like a whole project just in of itself.
Yeah, so we had a great production department. Frank Coppola, sorry, he was the production designer, and he had a couple people under him, and they were really cool. Frank was just a total rock star, but he had his props person, Mallory, and she kind of just took that room and just started decorating it. And we had Angel, before we shot the film, send us just like a ton of photos of her. And so we printed them all out, and she was able to make this collage, and she just sort of, she spent some time because that dorm room's a set. So they started building it, I think, in the third week of production, and we shot all of the dorm interior stuff in the fourth week. So, there was a lot of time for her to just kind of go in and add some stuff and add some texture pieces, because it's all those little things and those little details that make it feel real. And so like having those photos and having that sort of proof of life, I think, was really important. Like when Charlie's mom comes in after her passing, she goes in and she looks at the board, and we see it there. And when right after the passing, before the birds start hitting the window, Michael looks over and she kind of sees them as well. So it's kind of just like a constant reminder of Charlie's life, which I think just keeps these characters in this emotional state. Because I do think that the film's a little interesting, because a lot of times when you have a horror film, you'll have a main character die, and it's like 1 minute later, everybody's moved on, and it's just like, we got to go to the next thing. And I understand it. Like Z has that problem. When the husband died, we kind of like yada yada the drama and just cut and go forward in time, like a few weeks or something like that. But in this, we wanted to, because it's such a short time frame that the movie happens over, we just wanted to constantly remind you of her presence, because she was the one that kept this group together, and you kind of pull that apart and everything kind of unravels. So we just wanted to make her, even after she's dead, for her to be very kind of present in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the birds hitting the window, I have to ask, were those prop birds or was that CGI? I honest to God could not tell.
It's kind of funny because again, Frank, the production designer, I don't know if you know what duvetine is. It's
No.
like it's like a film. It's basically very thick black fabric that you can use to like block light or something like that. It's comes in really big rolls and you can cut it up and use it for whatever you need. But he took some of that and all he did was he basically made like an origami bird out of it, and he with black gaffer's tape, and he made this little thing that kind of looked like a flappy bird, and he was just outside the window because that was on a stage, and he was just chucking it at the window over and
Oh,
over
wow.
and
Just
over.
pelting the window with this thing?
Yeah. And so I took that and I kind of, there'd be some frames that you could kind of tell what it was, but there were some where it's just like, I know what it is, but it still looks just like a bird. So it is practical. And all I did was I just like added the cracks and I painted him out because you could see him throwing it. And I just it's just like a nice blend of these different things that are happening. But because it's all real and it's all, the lighting's proper because he actually did it, all the pieces that are composited together, they're all real. So it does, works really well. It's the same thing with like Joe with the fire, because, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the mix of practical and CG always works best. Like I said, I didn't even question. It's funny, I didn't question the cracks in the window. I thought, oh, those are real. The birds might be CG, so it's totally out.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, like the mix is it works well when you blend everything together like that. And your brother Ryan co-wrote this with you, and this is his first writing credit as far as I know. Was this the Puppet Man an idea that you guys have had together for a while? How did that collaboration happen?
No, the movie actually came from one of the producers, Matt Mandarides. He basically just cold called me in 2020. It was like late 2020. I was in post production on Superhost, and I was just kind of, anxious and trying to figure out what the next thing was. And so he just randomly messaged me on Facebook, and he's like, "Hey, I've got these ideas that we're going to pitch to Shudder. Wanted to see if any of them would be of any interest to you." And so he sent me this list, and a lot of them were like, oh, giant crocodile, giant snake, and like all these random kind of like weird monster type movies. But then there was this one, and it just said The Puppet Man, and it was like, all it said was basically like a man comes home from work and he kills his wife without being able to control his body. And so that one was the one that stuck out to me. And I was just like, yeah, let us take a look at this, and, we'll get back to you. And so my brother and I, we'd never written anything before, but he's been writing his entire life. I just thought it'd be a cool opportunity for him and I to develop something with like no stakes. And so we just started building on this thing, and we took this opening scene idea, and we're like, okay, well, who are these people? Do they have a kid? And it's like, oh yeah, maybe they have a daughter and she's there, but she's locked up. And like, oh, well, maybe this is taking place in the past, and we have a podcast that is talking about this case that we just watched, but she's in college now, and she's, kind of learning about what happened, or, and we're just kind of going through this snowball thing. And we just sort of quickly developed it and wrote this big, I don't know, it was like a 32 page treatment, with imagery and stuff like that. And, we sent it back, and everybody thought it was really cool. So they hired us to write the draft, and we wrote that, and then just sort of snowballed into me directing, and now it's out. So it's just kind of a weird thing. But no, we didn't have any intentions of writing it. We've written a bunch since then, but that was the first time we'd ever written together.
Well, so somehow it just kind of all kind of came together for you there. Now I got to ask, what is it with Glens in horror movies that are such assholes? I mean, you have this Glenn talking about daddy issues. You got Nightmare on Elm Street.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny because the names in this, like Danny, Michael, Glenn, and Joe, they're all based off of a family that like my childhood best friend and his family. So we just sort of stole their names, and then Charlie was just sort of like the odd man out, and we just I don't know, Charlie just stuck for some reason. I don't know why, but a lot of people are like, oh, their gender flips names, and I was like, no, not really. I mean, Michael was my friend's mother, and that was her name, same spelling and everything. And we did that because she's passed away, and it was kind of like a little tribute to her. But
Nice.
Yeah, it was just Glenn just sort of ended up being that guy. I don't know. I think it's such an alpha name that it just maybe that's just how it works out. It just seems he just seems like a Glenn for some reason.
What's your favorite thing, Brandon, that you pulled off as a director in this movie? Like every director has that one thing that they're like, "Fuck yeah, I pulled that off. I did that." What's
Yeah.
that for you with this movie?
That's a really good question. If every time you should always ask that. I don't know if you asked me that on Superhost. I can't remember, but that is a really good question because it's not something that you often you don't often get asked that. Like you're always asked like what are the hard things and blah blah blah. Not like what hypes you up about this thing. So that's cool.
Right.
So this, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot because this film, when we were doing it, I mean, there was something like 40 something 45, 46 locations, and we had a 20-day shooting schedule. So basically every day you're starting in one location and you're ending up somewhere completely different. And so your time management is so key because you just don't have a lot of time. Like when I shot Superhost, Z and Stillborn, they're mostly in one location. So it's like if I have to shoot a scene and we're behind or something like that, I know that I can pick it up later. If I'm missing a shot, I can be like, oh, I can just pick that up tomorrow because we're going to be in the same place. We'll just quickly set up a small thing and, do it there. But with this, when you're jumping around so much, you just don't have that luxury. Like you have to get it or else you're basically screwed. So, with this one, the hard part is like every other day, it seemed like there was a big set piece sequence. Like day 2, we shot Glenn's death. Day 4, we shot the rooftop. Day 5 was the bridge. Day 6 was Joe's death. Like every day, you'd look at the call sheet, and even though you know it, you still kind of look at it, and you're just like, "What the hell? Like, how is there so many set pieces? We're shutting down a road, and we got to do this thing with all this traffic. We got to go on we're shooting green screen of what we need to recreate the bridge in the studio so that we can shoot her doing this stuff." And so it just felt like every day we were just like, oh, there's a cop shootout today. God damn it, I have to figure that out. So, you're really just trying to maximize what you get out of the short amount of time that you can do. So I think for me, I mean, just because of the constraints, the Joe death was probably the big one because going into it, we had some ideas like we knew there was going to be fire and a body and a library and all that stuff. But the way the film presents this whole sequence with the double deaths and stuff like that, it's not how it was written. Like in the script, it was Glenn is working out. There's a lot of things happening, but when the deaths themselves happen and they get taken over, it was Glenn dies. His whole thing goes to completion, and then it goes to Joe, and she's has her little phone call. But because Glenn had already died, Joe's stuff was very short. Like she doesn't really talk to Ruby beyond just saying hi, and then she freezes, and it all happens. So the first edit of the film, we had it just like how it was in the script, but then it was just very obvious, like okay, because the tension's gone for Joe because we know it's going to happen, so we have to combine them, and it became a thing about cross-cutting them. But beyond that, sorry, I'm going to ramble for a bit just because it's a lot went on here. So
No problem.
So going into the Joe death day, and it was day 6, I remember, because we had to shoot a bunch of stuff outside, and it was the coldest day of the shoot, and we were, in the parking lot where they come in after the liquor store. There, Danny wrangles Joe and she's smoking to bring her, to go to Ruby's. So we did all this stuff, and then we had to basically send Anna to makeup so she could start getting her makeup done. Because me and the key makeup artist Eric Wilson, we had a call the night before on how we were going to schedule this, because we didn't know going into this that the library that we were shooting at on campus had a strict, like, you can't go overtime. The doors, everything locks at this specific time. So we knew that we had to shoot everything in the morning, and then the entire afternoon was going to be devoted to this thing. And the plan we devised was before lunch, we would send Joe or Anna to makeup, and she would start getting her most extreme makeup done first. So like bald cap, sores, crazy stuff. And then we would shoot that, and then we would strip it down to the previous level. So we had like 3, it'd be a regular looking girl, and then we had some burn, and then we had the maximum burn. And so we started with the maximum burn because they said it would be faster to take it off in layers rather than shoot some, added on and then added on again. It would just, it'd be more effective if they were in makeup while we were shooting other stuff and whatever. It's always a big kind of puzzle that you're putting together. So anyways, we get to the library and we had some advanced crew working and lighting it and stuff like that. The production designers making the tables look the way they do, doing the lights and all that stuff. And then we show up and like makeup is not going to be close. So all of a sudden the plan is just not going to happen the way it was. And when you look at the scene, most of the tension and most of the stuff happens before she's on fire, right? So it's the phone call, it's sitting, it's looking at the book, it's lighting the cigarette, it's all these moments that lead up to her actually going into the fire, and that stuff's really short. But because of the way that we came up with this plan, it had to go 100% perfectly for it to work, and it didn't, and it never does. So I don't know why we were thinking that, but we only had she gets her first look done. We did only 2 shots with it, like the super close up, and then we did something a little bit wider on a profile, and then she had to go back into makeup and then strip it down and do the next thing. And again, that takes longer than you expect. So you're already, you're behind. Now you're more behind. So we're getting I've got one of the makeup girls, I'm shooting inserts with her hands, like grabbing the pen and doing these things just so I can get something while we're waiting. And then finally she comes back into stage 2. And again, it's just like 2 shots. It's like the close up of her face. And so you can see the degradation and the wider shot. And then she has to go to bare makeup and they have to clean her and they have to, treat her skin, all this stuff. And all of a sudden you've got about 25 minutes until those doors lock. And it's just like, oh my God, we don't this is the entire scene. Those other things were so small. This is what we needed. So we basically just shot like 3 shots. It's all, there's a big wide one showing the library. There's a medium one. And then there's a tight one. And we did 1 take of each. And we just sort of cut it or shot it. And then we just got out of there. And I just sort of left and I was like, that's like the biggest scene in the movie. And I completely screwed it up. So fortunately, we had some studio time, and so we put together a little table with the book, and we were able to shoot some of the closer up stuff, like when her cigarette falls out of her mouth, and when she's holding the phone, and she drops it and stuff. Those were all inserts we got to shoot later, and so I was able to kind of cobble the scene together that way, and it sort of worked. But then I realized, like, now that we've when I get to editing, now that we've recut this, and so it's like 2 deaths happening at once. Joe actually starts first, and we don't have any scene of Joe. Like, it's just in the script. It's just like, hey, I found the book or whatever, and then she just freezes and it's over. So if you watch it, it's all over her shoulder, and it's like close-ups of the book. And there's this conversation that's happening between Joe and Ruby, and you don't see any of their faces because it just didn't happen. We just didn't shoot it. So it's all ADR. And then, and then everything happens and it goes to what we shot and everything was fine. But yeah, just like because of the limitations of what we were working with and how the plan just didn't work, because it never does. I'm really proud with how seamless that all worked. And it was cool too, because the producers built this like half body, sort of like really crude shape of a body and a head using chicken wire. And we took that into the studio one night after we had, wrapped all the crew and stuff like that. We stuck behind. And basically what we did is we had a book, we had a table, and we had this fake body. And we doused everything with kerosene, and we just lit it on fire and just sort of reshot the shots that we had with these things. And so I could take the real fire as it's like bending around this head and stuff like that, and I could apply it in visual effects and just like composite it, and it was perfect because it was reacting around the things it needed to. So it just was like this seamless thing that I was expecting it to take a long time, but it was actually really simple. So that was really cool because, I do my own visual effects. I did 307 of the 317. And that was one going into the film, I was just like, I don't know how the hell this is going to work. And so for the plan that I had for that part, it worked really well. And that was a very gratifying experience to see kind of come together.
Yeah, I was going to say my favorite scene was that library and gym scene because it was just so intense with it being cut. It had me grimacing watching, and the whole time I'm like, can this be over? Can this be over?
Yeah, for sure.
Well done. That was just such a disturbing shot.
Thanks. Yeah, it's always, you want to make sure those things land, because that, when people watch the movie, they want to have those moments that stick out the most, because that's when you think back to a moment, you're always thinking about those big, the T-Rex in the rain and Jurassic Park and
Yeah.
these big kind of iconic moments from the movie. And I always try and have something in there that if someone thinks of the movie, they go, "Oh, right, yeah, Barbara Crampton got stabbed in the head." That's cool. And Z has like the little kid falling off the stairs, and it's just like there's just that one moment that you can kind of instantly go to, and it becomes sort of like the calling card for the film. And so the double death is definitely that in this film.
And yeah, I was going to say that was one thing I did notice compared to your other films is like we're traveling a lot in this movie, and I know you said there's more time constraints with that. Now, do you prefer the more relaxed schedule of the one location you can kind of take your time, or do you kind of like the fast pace nature?
I mean, it's all hard, but I would say that when you're in one location, you have a little bit more relaxed freedom, because you if you miss something, you can pick it up. But that's not to say it's better or anything like that. Like, I really did enjoy jumping from location to location, because the movie gets the scope of the film opens up a lot. You're not it's a different thing when you're in a bedroom and you have to shoot 10 scenes, and you're just like, how the hell do I keep shooting the same scene and make it interesting? But then you also, at the same time, you're like, I don't have time to shoot it interesting. I have to just shoot the stuff. So instead of like, you have one camera that you're shooting across a bed or something like that, and then you're going to have the actor shoot one scene, go and change, come back, shoot the next scene, go and change, and then you're going to turn around the room and do the exact same thing. They're going to go through multiple scenes. When you're in one location for one scene, like say the cop station, when all the cops shoot each other, you're only there for that specific thing, so you can really focus on utilizing as much of that location as you can. And so it gives the film some more production value, because you're just you're in more places. So that, I really enjoyed doing that, and just like going into a location being like, okay, this is going to be our police station, foyer. How is this all going to work? And you're just sort of mapping it out, and you never have to go back from it, so you can kind of just go as hard as you want and just like shoot it as whatever you can do, and that was a lot of fun. So I don't know, there's definitely a blend. I wish we had more days on this, because every day was just insane, but ultimately the movie's done, it got finished, it is what it is.
Just curious, were there any other working titles for the Puppet Man, or was it always just the Puppet Man?
So the initial pitch was the Puppet Man, but then after we wrote the first draft, we changed the title to Let It Lie, and
okay.
So it was like the title treatment. It was made of 3 lines, because the lowercase L, the I, and the lowercase L made Let It Lie. And so there was a lot of cool iconography with it. And in the film, there is a couple scenes where like she writes blood on the window and it says "Let It Lie." There was more to those scenes. And after we had, Shudder forced the title back when we were in post, and I was kind of taken from me. I removed a lot of that stuff because it didn't have the resonance that it did before, where it was like, it was all sort of packaged together to fit, the aesthetically and all this stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I understand it, because the Puppet Man's more commercial sounding, but Let It Lie to me, just when you're let it lie, and it's this thing is lying to everybody, and it's causing all this chaos, and it's the tricking, all this stuff. It had a lot of and letting the past lie. It had a lot of deeper meanings that I really liked, that unfortunately didn't end up staying.
And you kind of alluded to a little bit, but was there more background on the cult that wasn't used in the film? And how did you come up with ideas for it?
No, I mean, we kind of shot, there's probably more of that sequence where they're doing the thing, because it ended up being, in the script, it was, you followed each piece of that whole carving and bleeding and, putting the lines on their faces and stuff. But in general, not that much. I mean, my brother wrote the first draft of the script. Like, we built out the story, and then he took it. And in that first draft, he kind of came up with some of the stuff, like the 3 lines and the reasoning behind the 3 lines, and how that tied to like the lights looking through the cage and her thing and all that stuff. So there's a lot of iconography that he kind of just whipped up out of his ass. But I mean, ultimately, you know, without going, you don't want to. I mean, the movie's already very thick story wise. Like, there's a lot happening, and you're trying to get through as much of it as you can because you have so many characters, and you're whittling them down, and then you introduce new characters, and you're doing all this stuff, and it's hard. It's hard not to get bogged down in the details like that, and I think sometimes the movie would not be served better if we spent more time with this cult, because ultimately it doesn't matter. It's really just about this young girl and having a shitty past, and that past could be anything. I mean, it could be, her could be a father, like a homicide, suicide type situation. But at the end of the day, all that matters is that she was put on a path with her life where she doesn't really have any connections to anybody, and so the first time that she does, it just leads her down this path and kind of causes everything to spiral. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's no, it's all made up. It's just a cult that the Dolos stuff is real, like it's based off of a real god. But when you think about it, it's just like they're obviously wrong. They're trying, but I guess technically not, because they did have this spirit born inside of Michael. So maybe they are onto something. I don't know. Well, if there was ever a sequel, I'm sure it would dive into it more and spend more time doing that.
And you got any more of those cult books? Because I want one of those.
I know, right? We actually have two. I have one, and my brother has one.
That's awesome.
They made two, and then we had just like dummy books that we could use and burn when we shot with the fire in the studio. But yeah, no, they're super cool. And then all the interior pages are stuff that I had to when I was in post. Because like the stuff that they put in was like printed on like an old Xerox from like 1980 and looked really bad, so I couldn't shoot it. So I had to just whip up some stuff and created some artwork and stuff for it that I could film like really tight close-ups of well after production, so I could sort of fill in the missing pieces. But I do have pages that were bigger because they were on like full 8.5 by 11 that I printed out multiple copies of and stained them with tea and gave them some texture and stuff like that. Maybe those I can send out to some people. Those are pretty cool.
That's awesome. And I got to ask an obvious question. Do you consider your film a holiday or Christmas movie?
No, because it kind of falls in between the holidays for me, because it is snowy, and that was always aesthetically something that was really interesting to me, is that you take reading week, which typically falls in November sometime, and it's just kind of this very lonely period if you're not someone that has any home to go to. And so that was always kind of the backdrop for the film, is just you have all these characters and all, you have what is normally a bustling campus, but it's during a break period where everybody's going to go home and spend the time with their family and go home for Thanksgiving or whatever. But for this small group of people, they're either Charlie's supposed to go home, she doesn't. Joe is supposed to go home, she doesn't, and I think it was just supposed to be Glenn and Danny and Mike all staying. Then things happen. But no, I don't really think it's a holiday movie as much as just like a very cold and dark movie. And it's right between the two holidays. Or I guess, yeah, it's like Halloween. It's right in between Halloween and Christmas there.
Things happen is a pretty good way to describe what happens.
Right.
But yeah, we wanted to thank you again for joining us today. And you had talked about you had some upcoming project. Would you be able to share any more information on that?
I can't do much, unfortunately, just because it's super specific, and
Okay.
we basically shot it in secret. We used a fake name. We did all this stuff because it's a very it's something that hasn't really been done before, and it's like it is kind of a gimmick, but it's a very cool one. And
Okay.
So I mean, we're in post on it now. We're kind of getting into this, the part where we start sharing it with people that we can get notes on and stuff like that. We're getting close to that, but I would imagine it'll be out next year, and it'll be a thing. If it catches on, it could catch on pretty big.
I can't wait. You've piqued my interest.
You've told me nothing, and I'm completely interested.
Right.
Right. For sure.
And where can people keep up with you online?
I typically just use Instagram. I am the Brandon Christensen on there, and that's kind of the main social media that I use. I use Twitter a little bit, but not much, or X or whatever it's called.
I don't know. I'm with you. Twitter, X. I don't know. I know it's X, but doesn't feel right calling it X.
Yeah, I do think probably in 5 years, Twitter will be just a memory, and it will just be X, because time will just slowly shape the way that we talk, and
Yeah.
Elon's destruction of Twitter will have worked. It's pretty funny.
All right. So yeah, again, thank you for joining us today, and you've told us nothing about your next project, but we're already all in on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll do another one after that one comes out for sure.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Brandon.
All right, cool guys. Thank you.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you to Brandon Christensen for joining us again today. Make sure to just go to Shudder and check out his films. And join us next week. We will have Night Swim. I don't know why it was such a struggle to get that out. It's only 2 words. They just jumble. Swim Night is what I wanted to call it.
I keep calling it a swim fan.
Swim fan. Swimfear.com. Anyway, Night Swim. We got that review coming for you next. And make sure to follow us online. High on Horror 420. Facebook. X. Instagram. TikTok. All them places. And highoonhorror420@gmail.com. Send in your PPA questions. And make sure to check out our website, highoonhorror.com. And I guess that about wrap her up. Catch you later.
See you all next week.